mother says he was a normal, happy boy until he became obsessed with black metal music.
Rock and roll!
Sounds like Christian Rick.
Heavy metal music. Groups promote satanic worship.
They're anti-peace and anti-life.
Hello and welcome to the Metal Face Podcast, a podcast all about metal. Each week we review 3 albums from over half a century of heavy as fuck music. Joining me as always are my diligent and erstwhile co-hosts, Tom. Say hello, Tom. How are you?
Hello, Josh.
Good. And Ben. Say hello, Ben.
Hello, Ben. Have we used that joke too many times?
Never.
I don't think we've ever used it, have we?
Oh, we definitely have.
I've used it. This is our first episode after the bombshell, the artillery strike, the napalm drop that was the Grindcore special. And how are we feeling about returning to normal service this week?
Well, I've got all my clothes on this week, so that's quite a different experience.
It's an improvement, I think, yeah.
What the hell are you talking about?
I suppose it's audio, so the listeners have been spared.
Yeah, although I think it's nice to know, what you should picture. I was all sweaty and covered in flies. It was brilliant. I loved
Greased up.
Greased up. Why can you be greased up but not greased down? If you grease something down, is it still greasy?
It's extra greasy, I think.
Yeah.
Sounds
so you can
worse.
grease it up, and then if you really want extra grease it down.
Grease it down.
You grease it up, then you grease it down.
Yeah, that's what I tell them.
I thought we were done with this filth.
What gave you that idea?
Yeah, we've moved on to a much more sophisticated set of albums this week, haven't we?
In a way, yeah.
I mean, I've got my socks on and I've got sandals on, so I'm socks and sandalsing it.
You're prepared for
So
someone.
yeah.
Yes, that's a good point. What albums are we doing this week? We are doing Imperial by Soen, Takasago Army by Chthonic, and Organic Hallucinosis by Decapitated.
Ooh,
Very
yeah.
nice.
I'm looking forward to it.
An interesting week, a very varied week.
It's a nice little triplet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is, I feel like, slightly outside of our usual ballpark of bands, so it'll be an interesting one to talk about.
I think that's a good point. I think it's going to be an interesting bunch, and definitely
You can hear the hesitation in all of our voices.
I think it's
There's going to be some
great.
controversial opinions.
This episode will definitely be worth listening to.
we all have lots of interesting things to say, as always.
Of course.
And speaking of having things to look forward to, Download Festival just happened last weekend, which has got me thinking about Bloodstock Festival.
The only time we're going to mention Download is in
Yeah.
reference to Bloodstock.
Well, I was going to say, did you guys watch any of the footage from Download?
I've seen a few photos on Facebook and Instagram, and it looks really cool. I wish I was there,
It's,
actually.
oh my god, just like I've forgotten that feeling of seeing someone at a festival and thinking, maybe I should have tried to go to that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not normally a feeling I have about Download either.
They do occasionally have some good stuff. I've seen Sabbath and Rammstein there before,
Yeah, I'm being mean.
but I've never gone for the whole weekend.
My first ever festival when I was 16 years old was Download.
Was it really?
Nice.
Yeah, I think it was in 2012. Maybe I was 17. Anyway, it was 2012, which got nicknamed, I think, Drownload because of how rainy and muddy and horrible it was.
Drownload or Brownload seem to be what everyone calls it every year, so...
Always. It's too early in the year.
It is. It's way too early. Bloodstock, fingers crossed, has always been fairly good weather. We've had a couple of rainy years in there, but well, we had the year when were you guys there when Chris didn't take his shoes off for about 5 days, and then when he did eventually take his shoe off, we found that his foot was rotting.
Oh my
and
god.
He was consigned
Luckily,
to a
I
wheelchair
wasn't
in a bandage, and then we paid Eddie. We did a whip round and paid him something like £3.78 to lick the bottom of Chris's
Oh my god.
rotten foot. Yeah, and he did it.
Oh boy.
That was very hard to watch.
Why did you pay him to do it?
Why did we pay him to do it? Why did we pay the boy to lick the other boy's foot? Well, it's Bloodstock. Someone's got to lick someone's foot. Someone's got to lick something. Something's got to rot. I don't know.
So, I, for one, am really fucking excited about Bloodstock now.
I'm slightly less excited after that story.
It doesn't have to be you doing the foot licking. You could be doing the foot rotting.
It's just
could be my
it's
foot getting
just
licked. Hey.
a rule of the festival. One person's foot will rot, another
The
person will lick the
ceremonial licking of the rotten foot.
foot. Absolutely.
But oh man, so much fucking stupid stuff goes on at Bloodstock. I'm looking forward to wrestling. I'm looking forward to bin jousting. I'm looking forward to moshing, circle pitting. I'm looking forward to wearing a dress.
You know,
I'm looking forward to all of it.
UNESCO is updating their like
Bloodstock's going to be a UNESCO World Heritage Site. UNESCO World Heritage
bin jousting is intangible cultural heritage.
I would love to see the day when there's just like a really battered bin with like pentagrams sprayed on it in a museum.
No one knows why they did these things.
One of my favourite memories from Bloodstock was sitting at the campsite and being like, man, what band is that? Whoever that is, They were really fucking kicking off. This sounds great. We were like, well, let's just go see. Let's go to the arena and see who it is. And we got closer and this really pounding, relentless drum beat. And we're like, God, what a drummer. This guy's intense. And then we get around the corner and it was a generator for the lights. Just going... Poof, 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 poof. Not only that, but there were already about 10 people around it headbanging.
Beautiful.
Absolutely
God.
beautiful.
So,
Well, I hope they play again. They sound great.
Yeah.
light generator.
Like
yes.
generator.
So, you know, the lineup's...
Oh, there
yeah.
are bands playing.
Wait, Alan's like, wait, there's music. What?
I gotta be real, the lineup isn't as strong as I would like it to be for my
Well,
own taste. But
A lot of bands have had to pull out, haven't they? With the
Yeah.
not being able to get here and all that kind of stuff.
I would say most of the bands I was looking forward to seeing have had to pull out, unfortunately.
Okay, well,
But I was quite happy to have Creator traded in for...
yeah, I'm excited to see Creator. I think that'll be good.
And there's Onslaught as well on the Wednesday. Onslaught, a great British thrash metal band.
I think one really interesting thing actually about COVID and festivals is that it happened to download is that you're getting a lot more like British bands
Yeah.
being booked to headline because they're more likely to be able to make it.
Yeah.
So you're getting quite odd looking lineups because of that. Like it's a lot of bands I wouldn't normally see, to be honest. But I'm actually quite glad they're like Skindred being second bill on the main stage is not something I'd
Yeah.
expect, but they're cool. I'm hyped for that. You know,
I should check them out properly, actually. I've never really given them a proper listen.
they're interesting. Oh, maybe we should do that later in the season. They are pretty cool.
Yeah, maybe we should, yeah. And Napalm Death are headlining on the Friday on the Sophie stage. That would be fucking cool.
They're grindcore, right?
Yeah, they are sort of like, you know, founding fathers of grindcore
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah.
Actually, not one of my favorite grindcore bands by
Ooh.
a long shot, but they've got enough good songs to sustain a set.
I've got a nice anecdote about them. They were booked to play the Royal Albert Hall, and they had to change the venue because they I don't know exactly who worked it out, but apparently when they were setting up the they sent over the tech spec for the the sound setup.
Yeah.
The Royal Albert Hall realised that it'd be so loud it would damage the listed building. So they had to do it somewhere else.
That's such like a
Good
classic
grief.
heavy metal story, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
So I
great.
love that, the Hard Times, which is sort of like the Onion for like metal and rock. Punk band's fundraiser to save old music hall completely destroys it.
Oh, fantastic! Hard Times has some great headlines. Like,
yeah, oh man.
these punks turned this failing bike shop into a failed bike shop.
I love the you don't have to be a felon to listen to Pantera, but yes, I am a felon.
We saw some punks, didn't we, Tom, in London not so long ago?
Oh yeah, some proper sort of gutter punks with a sign saying, what was it?
Help punk get drunk.
Yeah, help punk get drunk. Just like hanging out in Camden on the bridge. And then,
They were joined by a more unsavoury character.
oh yeah, that guy. So it was like, you're kind of listening to this guy in the distance yelling on like a megaphone. Me and Josh were down at the canal having some fucking bevies. And there was, this guy up on the bridge. We're like, right, is he a flat earther? Is he an anti-vaxxer? Is he a COVID denier? You know, all these sorts of things. But I think my favourite thing that he said over the hour or two that he was ranting was that we should all sue our parents because we didn't ask to get born.
Wow.
And I was like, that is pretty radical. He was like an anti-lifer, wasn't he?
He was like, you should all go gay so you won't have kids.
Oh yeah, that was brilliant.
Which, I don't, there are other ways not of children.
Nature finds a way. Yeah, but
So I take it he's the Conservative MP for some London borough.
Oh, it wouldn't surprise
Well,
me.
to be fair, he was being pretty radical. I mean,
Radical.
pro-gay and anti-life. I'm like, I feel like a lot of bands I listen to
Yeah.
that starts in it.
I know this song.
Where's the riffs?
But he must have been saying something offensive because some guy,
I'm sure he was.
we just saw some guy walking along, jumped over the barricade, and then we just saw both of them go down, and then there was no more megaphoning for a while.
Poor guy. Bit much. He was spouting mad shit, so I lamped him, Your Honour.
Well, he was anti-life.
Anti-peace and anti-life.
Yeah. Yeah, so, the headliners are actually pretty good at Bloodstock in terms of Judas Priest I want to see, definitely.
Yeah.
Debbie
Creator
T.
I definitely want to see. And I think David Danzig will be a good show. I mean, I watched them live.
Is he still going to be able to
stuff.
get there? I hope so.
I hope so too. I would like to see him.
Yeah, these changes keep happening, but I'm looking at the lineup now, and there's a lot of bands on it I want to see, and ultimately, I just want it to happen. I just don't even care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I mean, like, all the bands that I want to see could drop out, and I'd still be keen to go just for the sake of
I bet this is going to be like
going to a festival.
potentially one of the best crowds in a long time. People are just going to be so fucking happy to be there.
Oh my god.
All the pent-up energy.
You know, that. So the first band that I definitely want to see on the whole lineup is Onslaught, playing on the Wednesday night.
Oh yeah, it's from Wednesday this year, isn't it?
Thrash metal circle pit.
On a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Is that 5 whole Wednesday, Thursday,
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday.
5
5 days.
days.
Wow.
5 days. And there's some good bands on it every day, so I guess are we committing to the 5 days?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Well,
good.
as discussed,
Hell yeah.
it's not necessarily always about the music.
I wonder if that like
Yeah,
voids
for
your
sure.
life insurance or something, like deciding to go for 5 days at Bloodstock.
I feel like so I haven't
It
been for a
should.
couple of years, but when I went in the past, I was quite often like famously skint in terms of I would literally go there with like £10 in my bank account, which is not the case this year. And I feel like it
Ooh.
might be easier to get through a festival if you can actually,
You are completely broke.
yeah, if you can afford, fucking aspirin, Coca-Cola, a fucking
Can't even afford the aspirin. It's like 30p, Tom.
No, I'm mega
have a
looking forward
posh
to that.
shower or whatever.
No, the showers are
Part
worth
of
it,
the fun.
man. The showers are worth it.
Josh. It's part of the fun, man. See how grubby you can get.
I just remember, I
Do
always,
you literally vomit it?
I just remember this giant, horrible pimple on my face that like got caked in dirt and like expanded over the whole festival.
Oh my
Was
God.
this a Municipal Waste music video by any chance? Anyway, speaking of pimply people, should we talk about our first band?
Wow, I don't know if that's deserving, but so our first album this week is Imperial by Soen. So Soen are, I think, the first supergroup we've covered on the podcast, that being a band formed of musicians already known for their other successful projects.
A band formed of musicians. Fucking hell.
Unlike most metal bands, everyone in this band is a musician.
So the band was formed in 2004, although I don't really understand why, not formally announced until 2010. So it took them 6 years to go public with it. They remain active today, and they have had a few lineup changes over that time. I think with quite a few of the founding members leaving and new guys coming in. But previous members include Opeth drummer Martin Lopez and ex-Death and Testament bassist Steve DiGiorgio.
Oh, that's interesting.
The band's music is progressive metal and at times, admittedly, progressive rock. With the album we're discussing today, I think having a bit more of the metal edge to it. This album being released in 2021, so it's pretty new. Personally, I got into Soen through some of their earlier releases, which I'm not the first to say share a lot of similarities with Tool. If you listen to the song Tabula Rasa, it basically sounds like a Tool song, like almost directly. But members of the band have responded to that comparison quite positively. To paraphrase Martin Lopez, Soen are inspired by Tool, but Tool are a genre in and of themselves. Now, Soen are a new discovery for me, and I've been really enjoying them over the last couple of weeks, but I am wondering what you guys think of them. I'll start with Josh. Josh, what did you think?
I don't. I'm
Oh, wow.
like. I'm going to be honest with you. I really didn't get into this at all. I really struggled with this album.
I thought I was starting with Josh because it'd be more positive.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, I listened to some songs from Lotus, which I really liked. I thought that was really cool. But I don't know. It just I don't want to be mean about this band, I don't want to slate them.
Sorry,
I just
I'm never gonna listen
really,
to it.
really didn't get into it. I felt it didn't have all the things I like about prog, right? In a band like Dream Theater, right? It's big. It's loud. It's energetic. It does lots of stuff. It's cool,
Yeah.
This felt like a small sound, yeah.
It sounded like basically Disturbed with a weird time signature and like a few more riffs.
Yeah, I did actually.
Disturbed was a band that came up for me as well.
Yeah,
definitely.
me too.
It really sounded a bit like kind of generic rock, but a bit weird. And it's like it just. I think I'm being too harsh on it. I think because it just didn't grab me. Honestly,
No, honestly,
Yeah.
there's something that I kind of thought might happen because I think it's weird that it has stuck with me because
Yeah.
it does sound pretty 2000s in like the tone of the guitars and stuff, and I made
yeah,
that
it
same
does,
comparison
doesn't it? Yeah.
where I thought these just sound like Disturbed songs but with sort of a different vocal style and a weird time signature.
it's Disturbed in 7/8. Like
Yeah, it kind of is.
I did appreciate the this kind of the time signature difference though. I was trying to put my finger on what was slightly different about it.
I think that's the thing, like that frustrated me a lot because there were bits where it was really cool and it would build up, but then it felt like it didn't really go anywhere.
I think that the opening sort of first few seconds of the album sort of summarised some of my anxieties about listening to it. It starts, it's like, and then instantly like drops out and there's like a kind of a slow beat, and I was like, oh, for about a second there. I was like, oh, here we go.
Okay, so Josh hated it, Tom liked it for 1 second and then hated it.
Well, no, I mean, I should say I didn't hate it, to be honest. So it reminded me a lot of Scorpions, actually.
Oh, yeah.
The song Winds of Change, in particular, was one that I just kept sounding like it was almost about to be like that song. And also kind of reminded me of Borknagar as well. Like, they're a sort of black metal band with a clean vocalist and stuff, but they do have much more kind of soaring, sort of epic feel. Kind of also made me think of like stuff that was a lot more poppy as well, like Whitesnake. It even reminded me of Robbie Williams as well.
Oh my god,
I can see that. Yeah,
that was such a wide range of name drops.
Yeah, well that's it. I feel like there was a lot to this album in a way, if you kind of dig down on it. But actually, I felt like it sounded pretty the same, kind of all across the board. But I do feel like I'm being a bit harsh there because, like, ultimately, I did enjoy listening to it. I would just kind of sometimes forget that it was on a little bit until something grabbed me.
I think maybe, yeah. I think I agree with you, Tom. Like, it was ultimately, it wasn't offensive. Like, I didn't dislike it. It just didn't really stick with me either. And I think that was. I don't know. I think when I was like had to like sum it up in a sentence, it was hard to say that. But you've put it in better words than I did, where it's like it was an album.
I'll be interested to see how long this stays in my regular rotation there.
Yeah.
Because I know what you mean, and it does have that sort of hard rock kind of edge to it. Where
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I was hesitant to pick this album because I didn't really know if it sat in metal, and I think really the only thing that puts it there is sort of the some unusual time signatures and the distortion on the guitars. You know, that's the distortion on the guitars basically is what puts it there.
It's very reserved, and if it was just a little bit more reserved, I would almost say like it's kind of not.
Yeah, and there's quite
metal,
a couple of songs there that are basically really slow, like rock songs. So
it's weird because I enjoyed that. They're slower ballady songs. Like I think is it Illusions where it's like really stripped back and quite like almost acoustic. I quite liked those. Like that those bits were things I enjoyed because they sounded like it fit it. It just when it was trying to be like I think in like an Antagonist when it's like trying to be a bit heavier but doesn't quite reach the mark for me that I struggled.
Yeah,
that's interesting. What do you think of like the vocal performance? Because for me that I think that's kind of what makes me like it is that even though it's not heavy vocals, it's quite clean singing a lot of the time. I really like the guy's voice. I think he's
got a
he's
really
a great voice.
Fucking nice voice. It sounds like fucking syrup.
Yeah, it's really smooth.
It reminded me of a lot of sort of Europoppy sort of stuff.
Yeah,
I'd be interested to know where this band's primarily from. It seems like States rather than.
I think they're
Europe.
from all over. I think there's, like I say, it's sort of a collaboration between a lot of different people. I don't know so much about the guys who are in the band now.
The thing is, like, I'm sort of being harsh about it, or I'm sort of acting like I didn't like it that much. But actually, like, I did end up enjoying it eventually. It was really like first listen through, I was pretty much just like, all right, whatever.
I felt the same.
Yeah, but then sort of today when I was listening to it, I must have listened to it, I don't know, 4 or 5 times now. I actually was quite enjoying quite a lot of it. They have that quality that, say, a band like Wolf Alice, their latest album, is much more ballady, but it kind of moves the emphasis onto the singer's voice. And I felt like they had the same sort of thing where you can kind of almost like shut your eyes and purely listen to the voice, and the rest of it is there just to kind of augment it, which was cool. And I did quite like that. And there were definitely songs on there that were like that kind of stood out, but like it is pretty fucking samey at the same time, I think.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think between albums they vary a lot more. Tellurian is the album that I'm most familiar with. That's the one that basically sounds like Undertow by Tool, but like slightly even then I guess slightly lighter. But yeah, and then this album I think they've found a sound and they've made an album in it. I hope they don't necessarily stick with it and do sort of keep trying different things, because I think it's more interesting with a band like this when they do just sort of every album is very different, and they keep experimenting with different things. I think maybe that's what's cool about this album, is there is something quite unique about it. Like to go from that range of bands that you named earlier, from Robbie Williams,
There was a lot of things that it reminded me of.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to see a band that maybe it was having that early 2000s kind of guitar tone, and even the vocal performance was quite like early 2000s, but then with like interesting time signatures that I actually found quite enjoyable. I was like, oh yeah, that's something that maybe we didn't have 20 years ago, and they've kind of taken that and made something different with it, rather than just sort of making the same thing again.
Yeah, it was at first I was like, this is not an interesting album, and now I'm like, this kind of is an interesting album, but part of it the reason it's interesting is the way in which it's sort of not that noteworthy, but equally seems to have something that works about it.
It's
really
so
good.
unnoteworthy. It's come back round
It's
and become
become
noteworthy.
I did just one point before we move on to favourite songs. I did really like the lyrics, actually. The moments where you can kind of hear clearly what he's singing about, and there's something kind of quite medieval and
The lyrics were definitely
you know,
cool. Yeah, like
medieval, emotional. Like I felt like you can easily envision a lot of this being from the perspective of like a medieval king, like lamenting a series of events.
Yeah,
kind of
that's
thing.
true. Yeah.
And I would have loved it if, like, because I looked up the lyrics and I was like, oh, it's got some cool themes to it, but I would have liked it if it was more specific. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, then I'd probably actually really like it.
Yeah, lyrics
It
are
wasn't quite there, you know.
lyrics are a funny one between all bands, and obviously this is something we could talk about generally for hours, but I really admire songwriters because I think it's such a hard balance between being sort of metaphorical, being down to earth,
yeah.
and also writing lyrics that you can sing genuinely and give a genuine performance with. And I think, in all honesty, the lyrics are a little bit cheesy, like for me, even for me. And I was sort of thinking, like,
they
it's
are.
so good that this guy can sing so damn well and put so much emotion into his singing, because if you could take these lyrics and put them into a Disturbed song, and you would just be like, "Oh, come on!" like,
Honestly,
you know?
like a lot of the album felt like I was kind of willing it to tip over into something else.
Yeah,
I got to about halfway through, and I was like, "Oh, is this what it's going to be the whole album?"
yeah,
And I feel like I've got mixed opinions on this because at its worst, it's like potentially good music to kind of like fall asleep to, and I don't mean that in necessarily a bad way, but like it is relaxing and it's like sort of kind of.
Can you go to sleep to music? Because I absolutely cannot.
If I'm on a train, I feel like I have to because there's too many disparate sounds. But
yeah.
like at night, I never do.
I count like an audiobook, but I count to music.
So, yeah, but that audio, you got to rewind when you pick it up. Though, so.
You can actually, my girlfriend does this. She has it set to like it will go on for like 10 minutes, then stop.
Oh yeah, I've seen that as well. Yeah.
Anyway,
Soen is so boring. We're talking about.
no. Like, okay,
Okay.
Soen has really strong vocals, and they obviously know how to write good riffs. And having listened to their earlier stuff, they obviously like have got a lot of music that I like. It just for me, it just didn't coalesce this time.
I'm just like write something better and I'll enjoy it.
Well,
Just make that music and I'll like it more. Easy.
do you know what though? Like I did, and I'm not backtracking on my choice here, but I did really struggle over which album to pick because I wanted to do Tellurian because that is the one that I think will stick with me for longer. But I thought there was something interesting about this album, and you know we're gonna do our seasonal Tool album at some point, and I didn't want to just have Tool again because honestly some of the tracks on Tellurian are basically Tool or Opeth. Like you could put them into a Play Survivor band and you probably wouldn't be able to pick them apart.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So speaking of favourite tracks, did you guys have anything that stood out on this one?
I really liked Monarch. I really liked Antagonist. And do you know what, Tom, the sort of thing you were saying, the tracks that are good, they are very similar. So if you like Monarch, you're going to like Lumerian, Deceiver, basically all of the tracks that are actually metal tracks.
Yeah.
How about you, Tom?
Yeah, I think I'd probably say Antagonist definitely is probably a track that I could put on a playlist. Like I enjoyed that one and it was pretty interesting. Well, I don't know if interesting is the word. It was good. And Deceiver I thought was a cool one as well, but largely just because it reminded me of Winds of Change by Scorpions, and I really like that song. The thing is, as I said, at its worst, this band is like a good band to fall asleep to. Which is, I don't mean that in a really like a nasty way. At its best, it kind of started to remind me of Baroness, and then that just made me think, well, I'd rather listen to Baroness.
Yeah. No, I've had that experience with some of your choices. Josh, do you reckon can you name the track you hated the least?
I'm gonna say I actually quite liked Illusion. I enjoyed that. It was fun. It was nice. It was a nice ballady one. It led into being a ballad. It worked. It did its job well. I had a fun time.
Well, they can't all be 5-star choices. What can I say?
They can't all be Sordo, mate.
Thank fuck for that.
I would rather listen to Sordo. Sorry, guys.
I think I'd rather listen to Sordo. No.
Damn!
Okay, let's move on before we say something. Well, that was already over the line.
Well, I like one band more than another. That's not,
How dare you?
the premise of the show.
The band that you like more than the other. That's the problem.
So now, travelling from west to east, next up is Chthonic with their album Takasago Army. Chthonic are a Taiwanese symphonic death metal band, but they originated as a black metal band. They've been active since 1995, being about the same age that I am, and Takasago Army is their 6th studio album, I know. released in 2011. Since 2016, their lead singer, Freddie Lim, has been serving as a member of the Taiwanese parliament.
Oh.
Even still, they released the most recent album, Battlefields of Azura, in 2018. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Chthonic play a really interesting blend of symphonic death metal with lots of Taiwanese influences and instruments, which I think is quite unique. Definitely approaches things from a different angle that we don't normally see. About this album, Freddie, in an interview, said, kind of in their earlier years, they played a more Western style of metal with Taiwanese elements they put into it, whereas this was more kind of Taiwanese music rewritten to be metal. So it's kind of an interesting transition point, and they say their next albums are more kind of doing something new. So this is an album that's at quite an interesting time for the band. I think also is quite an interesting time for a quite an interesting band. So I'm really excited to hear what you guys think. Tom, why don't you kick us off? What did you think of Takasago Army?
Well, yeah, no, this was an interesting listen. This is a band that I've heard about years and years ago, and I kind of dipped in and out of. But yeah, I thought it was a good album. I thought it was interesting. Like, it was kind of enjoyable. I felt like having the kind of Asian stuff in there was super interesting. I love the whole idea of including sort of folk elements from different countries and being able to hear a different countries' like cultural musical history in their music. You know, I mean, Rammstein is a perfect example of just what you were talking about, Josh, in terms of they didn't want to just play like American metal. They wanted to play like German metal, make it sound different, make it sound of the country. And it's a great way to like sort of, you know, travel mentally and feel like you're expanding yourself culturally while actually you're just listening to another metal album. So this was this was cool, and I was kind of glad to get around to it.
Yeah, so that I think that's something they do really well. They kind of layer up the like interesting stuff and makes you feel like you've kind of travelled a bit. Ben, what did you feel?
Yeah, this was tough for me. There's parts of it that I really, really loved. And I'm really glad to have listened to it this week. But something about it sort of just didn't quite tip into like something that I really loved. And I think that's like such a frustrating edge to be on. Because I really enjoyed the inclusion of like the traditional instruments and the layering up the music and like hearing sort of a lot of like black metal and then this traditional music and seeing how they kind of blend together was really, really interesting. But I think about this a lot this week, trying to work out why it doesn't quite stick and why I don't feel like I want to come back to it. Because you know, there's a lot of times when we do these albums, I listen to it once and then I'm like, God, I want to go back to that song. But that didn't really happen this week. And I think, honestly, my kind of criticism of it is I just wish the folk elements of it were higher in the mix and took more of a lead.
I totally agree.
Because I think there were parts when there was like a really cool thing going on in the background, and I also couldn't name the instrument, but I was like, that sounds amazing. I wish I could hear more of that. And it was kind of drowned out by quite like a generic like driving guitar riff, and I was just kind of like, lower that in the mix. Get the other stuff up front. Like, honestly,
like it did feel generic quite a lot for me, like to the point where I couldn't really pick out like specific riffs or specific songs.
Yeah.
But the moments where they were kind of doing their own thing that was uniquely chthonic, I was like, yeah, this is really cool. I feel like there's potential to like create a really, really interesting sound here.
Like a real 11 out of 10, like so new. But it felt like obviously I don't know much about the history of the band, so tell me if I'm wrong, Josh, but I felt like this was maybe like their first foray into including like these instruments, and I was thinking, oh, maybe on the next album they will have sort of found their feet with it and feel a bit more confident to put that stuff up front. That's kind of what I felt like.
I had a listen around some of their other stuff, and I was like, yeah, this is cool. I did think it was about the same as this album, actually.
Oh, interesting.
I honestly, like, it made me kind of just want to listen to The Who, H-U, that is.
Yeah, so this
the Mongolian rock metal band.
I was thinking the exact same thing with Tenga Cavalry. They're another band, like The Who. They're Mongolian.
Yeah.
And they put the traditional stuff much more up front. It's just a much more unique sort of thing. And those are albums like The Who and Tenga that I think have done it really well.
And I think another band that sprang to mind was Otsugotsu Totsu from Japan. And they kind of have like a sort of samurai metal thing. And they don't use much sort of folk stuff in there. But there's somehow like a really kind of warlike, sort of distinctly Japanese sound to their music. And it's all in, all the song names are in Japanese and they sing in Japanese and stuff. And you talk broadly about bands from a huge part of the world, but there was definitely, I feel that there's room for a band like Chthonic to do something really different to all those things.
Yeah, I do kind of recognise that my criticism of this is very subjective. I mean, that's fine, obviously, but what they're doing is still unique. I think it's just like, if I could set the dials to where I would set them, it'd be slightly different.
Yeah.
It's still good. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. I'm just being very negative about something that I actually really did quite enjoy.
Yeah. I think, for me, I was like, this is really cool. It was a little bit too mellow death for me at some point. Amon Amarth was a band they reminded me of a lot, where it's like essentially melodic death metal, and there's some influence of like this kind of folky thing, but I could go for like more essentially.
Yeah.
But I felt like there was still like enough stuff in there that I did feel entertained. I would say for at least like half the songs on the album, even though there were some that kind of weren't, like the sort of the whispering sound at the start of K-Oru, and then there were sort of like female vocals at the midpoint and stuff.
Those were bits you liked or didn't?
Those were bits I liked. I thought that was really an interesting different thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, that was actually the point that I sort of like put the pin in, where I was like, I've just been saved from getting kind of bored in the second half of this album. And I was like, do more of that. Yeah, because I definitely think like you got a song called Broken Jade, and you're like, Broken Jade, Taiwanese band, folk influences. This is going to be fucking cool. And then I was like, this kind of sounds identical to like stuff I was hearing earlier on, which is a shame.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean. Like, I think this album in particular, probably could have been a bit shorter and packed in more. I think for me, when I returned to it, I listened to Ocean Quake and Legacy of the Sadiq and maybe Broken Jade or something. I think one thing, just to kind of respond in defense of this band, I'm going to totally white knight for them right now. I'm going to bravely defend them against critics.
No, please, we've been complaining for.
Yeah, no worries. I mean,
no. I just talked about Soen for ages, and I'm gonna come out swinging.
That's what this really is, Josh. I actually really like it. It's just revenge. It's petty revenge.
So I had a quick Google, and Tenga Cavalry. I don't know who were about, but Tenga Cavalry were active since 2010. Now, Chthonic had been going since like 1995.
Oh yeah.
And like, I'm not like saying but that's they were oldest, they were lesser correct, but like I think nowadays the scene is so diverse and advanced. Like anything can be metal. It's so expansive that I think there's a lot of space for bands like Tenga Cavalry. But I think maybe 10, 15 years ago,
you're completely right.
Certainly 26 years ago, I think there was probably less. And I know fuck all about the Taiwanese metal scene, so apologies to anyone from Taiwan who's listening and it's like, Josh, you're an idiot. But like, at least in like the metal scene that I'm familiar with in the UK, like it has changed a lot, and I think maybe if Chthonic came about again today, they'd sound really different.
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, obviously we don't know, but there is total potential that they paved the way for those other bands that we've mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I think their later stuff as well. I think perhaps I made a mistake because all their albums are in English and in Taiwanese. So
that's really interesting. Like, that's quite impressive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was very impressed by it because I know like
what. So like half and half, or they do?
No, there's like an English version and the Taiwanese version.
Oh well, that's very impressive.
Yeah,
I think maybe it would have been more interesting hearing it in the original like Taiwanese. I think they're originally written in that language.
No, I agree. It's something that I really like about lots of bands. I mean, Rammstein being an obvious one, but then like Alien Weaponry as well, and also got Totsu that I mentioned earlier. Just like hearing those foreign voices and stuff, it's just so exciting.
Yeah,
I love foreign languages and things.
I did want to touch actually slightly on the thing you mentioned about the culture, because like when you listen to a band from like another part of the world and they bring in a lot of their like cultural heritage in terms of music and instruments, it can be quite exciting. Basically, I randomly saw these guys live by accident. I went to go see Arch Enemy and they were supporting, and I was like, oh, they were cool. I listened to them at home. I was like 17, but like Chthonic are a very political band. A lot of their music is about politics,
right?
And the history of Taiwan. And I kind of got really into reading about like basically just Wikipedia. It's quite like entry-level stuff, but like I read quite a lot about the history of the island and like the politics of it. Yeah. And I think that if they'd been less of a political band, that wouldn't have happened. And I know there's kind of a side point to the music, but I thought it was interesting, like you said, Tom, kind of joining back to that thing where it's like you can engage with both culture and politics of other countries through music, definitely. Which I thought was cool.
No, you're totally right, because as you said that, I was just thinking, Taiwan's an island?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And it does, like, I've said this before, listening to Rammstein has made me see Germany in like a favourable light, you know what I mean? Makes me want to go there. And that's great, that's what music and art should do, really.
It's weird, because I had a very similar experience with these guys. I'd quite like to go to Taiwan.
I'd like to go fucking anywhere outside of my house because I'm in isolation.
Ooh, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, touchy subject.
We're returning to the music for a moment. For me, I think I do totally accept what you say about they do sound like Amon Amarth. They are a melodeath band in this album, at least. I think the later stuff might be more up his street, actually, 'cause that's a bit like they kind of lean back into the kind of really fast black metal-y bits that they used to have. They originally were a black metal band, but they were fully corpse paint and everything. Like they had the
sweet. I'd like to
funny stage names too.
Nice. Well, I suppose in a way, my conclusion would be I'm not done checking these guys out.
No, I feel the exact same way. I'm glad that I've been introduced to them, and I really do want to hear more of their stuff now.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I say, I think a lot of my criticisms of this were very like subjective things, and ultimately, it's the great tapestry of metal. Like, I'm just glad that they're out there doing their thing. I want to hear more of it.
So it sounds like we all kind of enjoyed this one way or another, and we all had different kind of specs on it. But what were your favourite tracks, Ben?
Keora and Mahalaka were my two favourite tracks.
Oh, really?
That's
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Mahalaka was a good one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
good.
Guitar solo was a nice touch, yeah.
Yeah, I came back to those two quite a few times. Enjoyed it.
And how about you, Tom?
Well, yeah, I think Takeo was probably like the absolute high point for me. I've still got the chorus stuck in my head right now.
Yeah, it's
but
a
I
big
can't
one,
really
isn't it?
sing it because it's so difficult to wrap my brain around the sounds of the words in this language, which is cool. It's interesting. And yeah, Kaora as well was probably one that I'd listen to again. But yeah, no, I thought it was. I thought overall it was cool. I don't know if I'd listen to it again, but I feel like Takeo could probably go on a playlist, definitely.
So for me, my favourite tracks were definitely quite a lot of them. I really like Ocean Quake. I really like Ladies of the Sadiq. Takao, excellent. I'll stop there. I don't know. For me, the combo of like the big melodeath riffs, the symphonic bits really does for me. I think it's the same reason I liked Exdeo so much. I think they are quite similar bands in a lot of ways, and I think they do the same thing for me.
I feel like this band would benefit from some animal sounds.
Every band benefits from animal sounds.
Animal sounds and horns, then I'll be happy.
That's
all I need. That's all I
battle
want.
noises.
Animals,
Sort of the four
and
instruments.
then horns made out of the horns of the animals.
Oh my god, it's like recycling.
Nature's recycling.
Alright, so moving away from the sunny plains of Taiwan to the dark machine-like underworld of Decapitated with organic hallucinosis. Decapitated are a Polish technical death metal band formed in 1996 by brothers Vog and Vitek. They quickly became a big name in the underground scene, with 2002's Nihility being held up as an early technical death metal masterpiece. Now, Organic Hallucinosis is their fourth album, which features the incredible talent of their new vocalist Kovan and the enduring prowess of Vitek's drumming. When they recorded their first album, Winds of Creation, Vitek was about, I think, like 14 or 15.
Oh my god.
Something like that. And it's an absolute masterpiece of drumming. This just builds in it, as far as I'm concerned. It's pretty fucking incredible. However, immediately after recording this album, in 2007, the band were involved in a serious bus crash where Vitek was killed and Kovan went into a coma, which he has never since recovered from.
Jesus.
So I feel like Organic Hallucinosis is this sort of lost masterpiece with this lineup that could never logically be repeated of, you know, the last album by an incredible drummer and the first album by an incredible vocalist. And
Wow, yeah.
I feel like the atmosphere of the album reflects this. It just oozes darkness, strangeness. It's gloomy, machine-like sort of automaton level coldness, and it remains one of my favourite death metal albums of all time, right up there with Niles, Those Whom the Gods Detest, and Dying Fetus's Reign Supreme. I have a feeling that Josh is going to like this because it's quite mathy, quite drummy. But Ben, what did you think as somebody who is not known for being a death metal fan?
What am I known for? I mean, you've touched on the thing that stood out to me the most about it is just like how clearly technically impressive the album is.
Yeah.
My closest reference point, not being such a fan of sort of death metal, was Meshuggah.
Yeah.
It's fairly similar in terms of like the technicality of it, although it's sort of, I would say, more stripped back in terms of like there's more space.
It sounds
in the
like
music.
four guys in a room, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot more, I think, like
Yeah.
full on chugging in Meshuggah, which kind of fills every gap, whereas this was it's guys in a room playing their instruments, playing them incredibly fucking well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting what you say about the sort of atmosphere of it being very like cold and sort of machine-like, and I think that was it's impressive that they build that with just the instruments, because, you know, they don't add in any like anvil noises or like
There's like no
Battle
sound
sounds.
effects. There's possibly like one or two slight sort of industrial like
I think so.
sort of
I was specifically
things in
listening
there.
out for that because I was thinking to myself, like, there's a real atmosphere about this, but it's almost like Black Sabbath in a way, where they very much just relied on the simplicity of their music to give a real gloomy black metal kind of atmosphere. And I think they've kind of done a similar thing here, obviously with a very different style of music.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, I enjoyed it. It was really interesting. It is slightly out of my usual taste, and I don't know if it's like converted me.
Yeah.
But it's
I was still
obviously
working on converting you into death metal.
Yeah, good luck.
Well, what about you then, Josh? I suspect you might already know this album.
So, I hadn't actually listened to this album before, I did actually, years ago when I worked for a music website, review Anti-Cult just before it came out. And I really like that. And, I mean, Decapitated, they're kind of, what else need to say? They're kind of the pioneers of the genre. For me... They're
sort of like the biggest band that never got huge.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think it's like... I don't know, for me, Spheres of Madness is just such a genre-defining song, isn't it? Like, exactly. Like, everyone knows it. If you wanted to show someone, if you're like, if someone asked you what's tech death, you could do much worse than showing them Spheres of Madness.
Oh, but yeah, for sure.
I feel like my issue with Decapitated, and it's not an issue with them at all, I find it quite hard to talk about them, because so many bands have borrowed from them. They sound a bit like everyone else, but that's not because they're generic. It's because everyone's copied them.
Yeah, well, it made me think actually of some of the sort of deathcore stuff that you showed me in the past, and the kind of like the really starting, stopping, kind of chugging stuff, which I don't tend to like. But on this album, kind of seems like really aggressive and just like strange, you know.
I think this album, what you're saying earlier about being kind of really cold and like alien sounding, like it almost reminds me of like in like the like Warhammer 40k universe. Like some servitor digging up like an ancient artifact of like lost technology, and you press the button and it plays this album. Like I can fully get behind that. Like that's how I
tell you what
it.
It makes me think of. It's funny you should mention Warhammer. It makes me think of like some sort of dark chaos underworld where there's just like a shitload of like wires and pipes, and then there's just one face with like the flayed skin like attached to the pipes. Yeah. And maybe I'm getting that from the album cover a bit much, but like. It feels like a human. It feels like a consciousness surviving in a machine. It is. It has that frenzied, chaotic, desperate sound.
I think thematically almost there's songs like in the titles like post-organic. Like it touches on those kind of themes, doesn't it? And it's
turning
like,
into a cyborg.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like a dark post-humanism kind of thing. It's very cyberpunk in a lot of ways.
And like revelation of existence, the trip. It's like there's something really inward reflecting about it.
It's like
given how it sounds like a room with metal surfaces.
It's like a dark techno spiritualism.
I used to listen to this a lot when I was doing deep cleans of the kitchen at this restaurant I worked at. To set the scene a bit here, I would sometimes be like in Extractor fans. Distractor fans? That's me. I'm just in Extractor fans with like gloves up to my elbows and like a sort of what would you call it? Like not a gas mask, a face mask on, and then like goggles and everything, and then like a rubber apron, like spraying bleach like into this kind of.
This is all becoming
this,
very
like metal vent.
This is all becoming very dark, like steampunk in my mind, where you've just got like the round goggles on and a gas mask just scraping organic matter off metal plates.
Well, because we were given like a wallpaper scraper essentially to get the
grease,
to get the solidified animal fat out of this extractor fan. And you just scrape it up and slap it down into the bin like bit by bit. This was the perfect album for that.
Straight into the bin.
Be more perfect.
Yeah, straight into the
matter right there.
Into the stock
that
pot.
makes some serious gravy.
Oh.
I think for me this album musically is where it's really interesting because it has. It almost sounds groovy,
Yeah.
Which is unusual in
there
tech
are some
death.
pretty groovy riffs in there, definitely.
There's real atmosphere in there as well. It's like the first. I remember thinking it was the first time I heard death metal and realised how atmospheric it could be when I listened to this album for the first time. And interestingly, the first song, A Poem About an Old Prison Man, speaking of atmospheric.
What a title.
Who do you think wrote the lyrics for this song?
I don't know.
Albert Einstein.
If you had to guess. Would you say it would probably be someone in the band?
Is it not someone in the band?
It's Charles Manson.
What?
This is a poem written by Charles Manson when he was on death row.
Wow.
The lyrics are, waiting on death row, people are coming in overalls, taking me to the gas chamber, scuffing my feet, they took him down the hallway. And then he's, later in the song he's saying, save my air, water, trees, machines eating the night, energy moving, nuclear fires, burning reactors. Fires of hell are burnt. Oh, yeah, it's fucking... That song really gets me every time. Because it's like, it's a weird song. It doesn't start out like a normal song. It starts out like it's already been going for about 5 minutes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and I liked, on that sort of point, Day 69, where it just cuts out at the end. I thought that was such like an interesting cold cut at the end of a song. Like, it's just going, and then it just stops, and they're like, yeah, we've played enough, we're out.
It's really savage, isn't it? It's like someone just rips it off.
And it wasn't like, it wasn't frustrating, it wasn't annoying or anything, which like, it totally could have been. It just cut, and I was like, I kind of just sat back and was like, whoa, all right.
Yeah.
They were done.
I say, yeah, it's mathy and weird sounding, but still satisfying and groovy, which is it's just such a weird combo, but it really, really works.
Yeah, and it's like cold and dark, but also and machine-like, but also atmospheric and like weirdly human.
Yeah.
And the lyrics are so vivid. If you read the lyrics, like, and if you kind of get used to them and stuff, you know how you do with death metal, like, or extreme metal. You got to kind of read it, and then you can hear it. Like, you know, the song "Revelation of Existence." I love the line, "Existing in a timeless pulsation, reached by many eternities, akin with affinity, akin with death. I'm breaking all barriers." I listened. Mate, yeah.
Yeah.
It's got some really vivid stuff in there. And I could definitely see how on a first listen, it's kind of hard to get through to it.
It definitely couldn't be a Soen lyric.
No.
Going on opposite ends of a spectrum here.
just a little different.
That was just like, I'm a man in a room. The room has some walls.
Got a chair, and I'm on it. It's kind of comfortable, but not that comfortable.
Can't complain.
It's alright. Everything
Look
is
at this
alright.
photograph. So no, I fucking love this album. I'm glad you liked it, Josh. And I kind of, to be honest, Ben, I'm confident that if you looked up the lyrics and kind of read through them, I feel like you might develop a new appreciation.
Yeah, I think part of the problem might be that I just spent a week listening to no music and like totally de-stressing in the countryside with no screens, and then I came back to Decapitated. It was a pretty what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, it was
Smash cut too.
Yeah, smash cut to me listening to Decapitated, and
oh, that's a bit much.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if in a couple of years I'm like, God, how did I not see it back then? You know, this sort of thing happens to me all the time.
For sure.
I think constantly it's happening.
Can you imagine being like an uncontacted tribesman in like the Amazon, and you get brought into like Western civilization, whatever, and you're walking along, and some guy's like, "Hey, bro, listen to this album," and you're like, "Okay, it's this."
Yeah.
Be like back to my native homeland in the West
Oh
is
my God,
fucking scary.
Oh, this is all fucked.
Like the fucking, you know, the chugging bit at the end of Post Organic.
Yes.
Like, Jesus Christ, that's heavy. Like, somebody call a fucking ambulance, you know?
Yeah, I specifically highlighted that point because I think the way that it kind of chugs, I don't know if I've like heard that sound specifically. It's kind of like a collapsing like chug, like it just kind of like falls down.
It's so fast, it almost feels like it's not in time, but it's like...
Yeah, that's what I mean. It feels like it's like falling down, but it carries on, and then it slightly changes.
That's tech death at its best, though, isn't it? When they're playing so hard and so fast that it almost goes beyond like kind of musical into this just like almost non-rhythmic, non-tonal thing, but it just holds on.
I know that's it.
That's that kind of like organic element to it, isn't it? It's the sort of it breaks like the rules of music at that point.
Definitely, and these songs feel like really disjointed in a way. Like there's so many bits that you just don't expect to be in there, but it totally works as like a piece. It almost sounds like a jam at point. It's like a jam of fucking robots or something.
Like improvisational.
Yeah, it has that kind of quality. Yeah, so I'm glad you guys sort of got something out of it. I'm glad that you liked it, Josh, and Ben, I'm confident that you can get into this more if you just fucking try.
Just stop being so fucking stupid.
Spend less time listening to Soen and more time listening to Decapitated.
Yeah.
Eventually, that post-organic riff will decrease your brain capacity enough.
If I ever go missing, I'm in Tom's flat, tied to a chair with Decapitated just blaring at me, so you'll know where to find me.
Did you guys have any favourite songs?
For me, I think it was Post-Organic and Day 69, and not just because it's a sex number. Like,
nice,
sexy.
I think they were both just summed up the best things about the album. You know,
Yeah,
fast,
absolutely,
riffy, groovy, mathy, great.
Yeah. I picked the exact same tracks, Josh. Day 69 and Post Organic. I think the album, in a way, kind of doesn't lend itself to standout tracks in a way because there are so many bits in every track that you kind of get favorite bits within tracks.
Yeah,
I like the first 4 songs a lot, like a fucking lot. The last 3 songs, not quite so much, but I still fucking love them because it's an amazing album in total. Oh man, I think if I had to pick a favourite song, it's got to be Day 69, essentially, because that's one of the first songs I heard by this band. Yeah, and I still love it. But, you know, big shout out to A Poem About an Old Prison Man and Revelation of Existence, if you guys are listening.
If you songs are listening.
So, that was Imperial by Soen.
It was a good album.
Yeah.
If you say so.
I love Nickelback, yeah.
You son of a bitch.
Takasago Army by Chthonic, and Organic Hallucinosis
Silence
by
is
Decapitated. I think I'll take silence over hate.
No, I just couldn't think of a good pun fast enough.
Moving swiftly on. So yeah, those are three very different albums.
Very
and I
different,
think,
right?
They were like kind of challenging choices this week.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think
Yeah.
I enjoyed it though. I think it was good to kind of stretch ourselves a bit and go for like quite a weird mix and quite like things that aren't necessarily so in our comfort zones.
Honestly, I enjoyed talking about it in this episode probably more than I enjoyed actually listening to it.
Yeah.
Kind of made me figure out like, oh, okay, I have been enjoying this stuff, but it's just not Sordo, is it?
It's just
The
not.
thing is, because I've been editing the Grindcore episode over the last week, I'm still in a massive like Grindcore brain at the moment,
Oh yeah.
and I've been listening to Bestial Machinery like all day today. I think I've listened to it like twice today, which is an hour and a half long album with 136 songs.
Oh
So
my god.
In the grind zone.
Yeah.
I have been furiously in the grind zone the last
Yeah, I
couple
definitely
of days.
think I definitely think talking to you guys made me kind of want to go back and listen to the albums again because I
Yeah,
feel like
I feel that way.
Yeah.
I feel like I struggled with my thoughts for both of your choices and even my own. So I think maybe
Yeah.
listening to them again, I might change my opinion slightly, which would be interesting.
And I believe so strongly that Organic Hallucinosis is a fucking masterpiece. I think anyone will see it eventually.
I am really glad to have that in my sort of in my brain now that I know it. It feels like I
Yeah.
get some street cred for knowing Organic Hallucinosis.
When you meet some metalhead that's like, oh, you know, little fucking metalhead.
I'll be like,
Yeah.
mate,
Fuck you.
I once listened to Decapitated Organic Hallucinosis and thought
sorted.
it was alright.
Gave it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, solid.
It is daft, but I feel like death metal is where you get the kudos, really, isn't it? In terms of when you're talking to
Yeah, I know what you mean.
some
It's weird.
dumbass metalhead. Yeah, it's a central genre these days. It's what new wave of British heavy metal used to be.
Well, I think it's because deathcore got so big. Like whether or not you like the old death metal, I think it's almost like a kind of litmus test as to whether you're like a quote marks true fan, isn't it? Like yeah,
That's true. That is true. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like the statement itself is bullshit, but the fact that the statement is made is true.
yeah. No, don't worry, we got you.
Yeah, Ben, I actually made you a death metal playlist. And I don't think you ever listened to it, did you? Called Continue to Kill.
No, I didn't.
That's what it's called.
It's got Unleashing Hell by Blood Red Throne, Time to Kill Us Now by Cannibal Corpse, Day 69 by Decapitated. It's got a lot of good stuff on there. To Hell with God by Deicide, Eaten by Bloodbath.
Look, man,
Ooh.
you don't want to rush me, okay? If you try and make me listen to that too soon, then I'm like a deer, you know? You're going to scare me away. You got to
It's
earn
only
my trust.
35 minutes.
We got the deathcore episode coming up pretty soon, so
Oh, we have, haven't we? I am actually looking forward to that. We might even have something else deathcore related coming out at some point.
oh,
We'll keep that under wraps for now.
all right.
So what are we doing next week?
Next week.
Holy Diver!
I think Tom wants to go first.
All right, go ahead, Todd.
So we're listening to Holy Diver by Dio, which is, I fucking love Dio. It's hard to like pick an album, but this album definitely has at least 4 of my favourite songs by Dio, and therefore 4 of my favourite songs on it. So I'm looking forward to talking about this one.
Nice.
But a little disclaimer here: I actually haven't listened to the whole album all the way through before. Dio is a bit of a hit band for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
What about you, Josh?
I am bringing Time Part 1 by Winter
You're
Sun.
bringing time.
The concept of time.
Whoa. Holy.
Time isn't linear.
Is this what we should expect from this album? Am I
Yeah,
gonna...
us doing bad American accents and saying things.
Beautiful, beautiful. I have heard so much about Time by Winter Sun, and I've never fucking listened to it. And I feel like at this point it's like watching Star Wars or something. I'm just
Yeah.
like, I don't fucking care anymore.
Well, maybe you'll like it. You never know.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's how I'm going into it. Just
It might be one of those
seeing-
times when you're like, everyone's talking about this and I'm sick of hearing about it. And then you're going to finally understand why, because it's actually quite
Yeah.
good.
So,
Yeah.
a little disclaimer also. I actually haven't listened to the whole album all the way through before.
Oh, really?
For me, there is one song which is fucking amazing. And
It's
I
only
haven't-
about 4 songs, isn't it?
Yeah, so one of them, I'm like, wow.
So this is the polar opposite of what I've been listening to today, which
Yeah.
is 136 songs in one album.
That's interesting, though. I do like it when none of us really know the album that well. But it's hard to
Yeah.
pick those, because if none of us know it, how the hell do we pick it? So,
Exactly,
I'm,
yeah.
I'm interested.
And what about you, Ben? I actually can't remember what you're doing.
So, I am bringing Big Business with their album Here
Oh,
Come the
yeah.
Waterworks.
Nice.
Yeah, that'd be great. I love Red Fang.
This totally different, like... Tom,
Nah, I'm sorry. I do like the Melvins.
slate it.
Big Business. The name puts me off, but the album cover looks great, so I'm looking forward to listening to it.
It is a weird name, I gotta admit. Big Business. Yeah. But I really like it. I am very familiar with this album. I've listened to it a lot.
Big boys. Brilliant. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be good.
So am I. I think we've got an interesting lineup next week. I think it's going to be perhaps a challenging one again because we've got quite a wide range, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, fucking hell. Let's do it.
We'll be on our A game as always.
Yeah. So where can people listen to us, Josh?
They can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, and
YouTube.
They can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes.
I'm keeping that in. Ben, where can people follow us for updates?
They can find us on Facebook. They can find us on Instagram.
Beautiful.
And Twitter, kind of.
Yeah, well, apparently on Twitter.
We have an account. I don't know.
We have an account.
What do people use Twitter for, man?
You can also check us out on metalface.show, apparently.
Hell yeah.
We need to get that sorted, Josh.
It is sorted. You just need to write your descriptions.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's on us, Tom.
Alright, well, hey, that was an interesting week, guys. I'm glad we did
stuff.
it. It was some unusual bands, but it was cool, ultimately. I enjoyed it. It was very cool, and now we're cool.
It's cool.
Let's go to a fucking techno party.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Fuck you, goodbye.
Cut, I like that. Travelling now from Europe and America all the way to Asia, we're going to go listen to some Chthonic.
I feel like you stumbled on that a little bit, Josh.
Yeah, I kind of lost faith as I was saying it. It was like, this is shit.